Spoke with President Trump for 20 minutes about the situation with Iran. He talked about Project Freedom and the U.S. efforts to guide vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, issuing a new warning to the Iranian regime, saying if the Iranians try to target U.S. ships in this area, they will be, quote, blown off the face of the earth. Remember, this was a project implemented by the Americans overnight to assist the hundreds of vessels that are currently trapped in the Persian Gulf. We're talking about more than 20,000 sailors. And the president told Fox he's doing this for humanity. Some of these sailors were running out of food and supplies on these vessels due to the Iranian threats that are ongoing in this area. And again, the president saying that if U.S. ships in the region are targeted, the Iranians will be blown off the face of the earth. Now, I also asked President Trump about the possibility of negotiations with Iran succeeding. He said the Iranians are being far more malleable than they were being in the past, showing flexibility given the U.S. pressure that continues as part of the American blockade of Iranian ports.
Drop Site News reports Iran shares footage of purported warning shots fired by the Iranian Navy at American destroyers earlier today. The New York Times breaks down what we're covering. Attacks resume. New attacks were reported in the United Arab Emirates and Oman on Monday, and U.S. Central Command said Navy ships shot down Iran cruise missiles and drones and 6 speedboats that had threatened ships in the Strait of Hormuz. It was not clear if the incident signaled the collapse of the truce. Iran did not offer any official confirmation or denial that it had resumed attacks, and a senior military official denies that its boats had been sunk. Economy and markets. Oil prices, of course, are jumping and stocks fell as investors reacted to the continued uncertainty. The New York Times also reported that IRIB, Iran's state-run broadcaster, said that a senior Iranian military official denied a U.S. claim that several Iranian warboats had been sunk. The official said that Iran had no plans to target the United Arab Emirates after regional tensions escalated over reported attacks near the Strait of Hormuz. We are also getting reporting that a major fire has broken out in an oil industry port in one of the United Arab Emirates' busiest ports. They said that the oil industry zone, the largest port and oil storage area in the Emirates, had been attacked by an Iranian drone, while the large Emirati cities are on the country's western coast facing the Persian Gulf. The eastern coast is what is currently being attacked. So does it seem like to anyone at all, that Donald Trump is in charge, that Donald Trump is in control, that Donald Trump even remotely knows what he's doing? Again, this is a man who said to Congress and said publicly, trying to boost the stock market, of course, which we're going to actually talk about in a second with Pete Hegseth, that the war was over, that it was done. Now, Donald Trump mostly did that to pretend that he's tough, also so that Congress wouldn't move forward with a war powers resolution. But Donald Trump is not in control. He is not in charge. He doesn't know what's happening. And we shouldn't believe the post that he just made completely melting down. Trump wrote on Truth Social, Iran has taken some shots at unrelated nations with respect to the ship movement. Project Freedom, including a South Korean cargo ship. Perhaps it's time for South Korea to come and join the mission. We've shot down 7 small boats, or as they like to call them, fast boats. It's all they have left. Other than the South Korean ship, there has been, at this moment, no damage going through the strait. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Kane will have a news conference tomorrow morning. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Note that there has been damage done to ships moving through the strait, and U.S. ships have been targeted, whether with warning shots or drones that Donald Trump is claiming have been shot down. But this idea that everything is fine with the strait and everyone should just keep on moving through isn't true, especially because there are still mines in the strait. There is still danger in the strait, and Donald Trump has no way to fix that. He doesn't have a plan. All he is looking to do is speak to the market, lie to reporters and tell them everything is fine.
Saying the Iranians do not have control of the strait. We have absolute control of the strait.
A few moments later,
Donald Trump's constant taunting of Iran has backfired as a major escalation event just took place. Iran has officially struck a port area in the United Arab Emirates, also after striking a South Korean ship as well as a UAE ship. Now, this follows Donald Trump saying that the United States was entering the Strait of Hormuz to escort ships. CENTCOM posted that 2 U.S.-based ships had been transiting the Strait of Hormuz. This followed Donald Trump's social media post saying that the U.S. Navy was going to head in and escort ships, to which some members of the United States military at a leadership level tried to pull those statements back and say, no, we're just going to be providing some guidance and logistical support to ships already in the Strait of Hormuz to help coordinate when the Strait of Hormuz opens. According to Iran, they saw certain moves that were happening in the Strait of Hormuz that signaled that the U.S. was working with the United Arab Emirates to bring some of these ships out of the Strait of Hormuz. And then the UAE took action.
The 79-year-old president painted himself as a peacemaker on Sunday night as he announced on Truth Social, quote, Project Freedom, the sequel to Project Epic Fury, that would help solve the problems in the Strait of Hormuz, allegedly.
Project Freedom launched this morning. The president calls it a humanitarian effort to safely guide some 800 cargo ships and tankers and their 20,000 crew members safely out of the Strait of Hormuz. The president says these stranded ships are running out of food and supplies and are merely neutral bystanders in this whole thing. In a very lengthy Truth Social post, President Trump went on to say, for the good of Iran, the Middle East, and the United States, we've told these countries that we will guide their ships safely out of these restricted waterways so that they can freely and ably get on with their business. The ship movement is merely meant to free up people, companies, and countries that have done absolutely nothing wrong. They are victims of circumstance. This is a humanitarian gesture on behalf of the U.S., Middle Eastern countries, but in particular, the country of Iran. The president warned Iran that any interference with this humanitarian mission will be, quote, dealt with forcefully. CENTCOM says guided missile destroyers, over 100 land and sea-based aircraft, and 15,000 service members are supporting this mission. Project Freedom is described as a coordination and information sharing effort to help guide these ships safely through the Strait of Hormuz. The Wall Street Journal reports U.S. Navy ships will not be escorting ships through the strait.
Iran, however, responded swiftly, warning that it would strike any U.S. ship that attempted to approach, which proved to then be true, seeing as NBC reported not long after that Iran did fire cruise missiles and drones and launched several small boats to target U.S. flagged ships in the Strait of Hormuz. But